thanks to everybody here for joining. We are looking forward to your input, your thoughts. Um, this is the first step in a new budgeting process that we refer to as outcome-based budgeting. It could also be called community-based budgeting. So basically what we are trying to do here is to get your idea for your vision for the community. We want to know what it is that you want us to be. And we'll take those, we'll compile those thoughts. We'll use them down the road as part of the budgeting process. So that's the purpose of today. I would ask that we follow general brainstorming rules of engagement, meaning that there are no bad ideas. We want you to throw things out there. We can debate them and talk about them later, but really this is an opportunity to share and support and mostly for us to listen. I think Patty will tell you here in a minute that there's a combination of folks on this call. There's you, the citizens. We have some staff on board. We have Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala as an elected official. And so just sit back, enjoy the ride. We appreciate your participation and looking forward to listening to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve, for that welcome. Good evening, everybody. My name is Patty Gentrup, and I am with KU's Public Management Center. And we have the good fortune of working with your community as you identify what's important as your governing body goes forward and allocates resources in terms of the budget. So the budget's the #1 policy document that a city can have. And so I'm here with my colleague Bree. And so we've tried to structure this evening so that it's a great conversation. And we really are here to listen more than to tell. Some of you have participated in a couple of the other workshops. This is the 4th, as we'll be talking about in just a minute. And you'll see that the format is exactly the same. It's only the topic that is changing. So we'll be, in just a minute, we'll be doing introductions. And we think that that's really important, even though we're just little tiles on a screen, because it really helps to develop community. And so many of you know one another already. Some of you don't know each other. And so it's just a good idea for people to kind of understand the perspectives that are in the room. And then we'll talk about the process. So why are you here tonight, and how does it fit in with the rest of the process? We want to make sure that people also are coming from at least the same baseline of information. Some of you are public safety professionals, some of you are community activists, and some of you are just folks who are interested in your community. And so Adam will be providing a brief environmental scan, and you should have received that document in an email confirming your participation tonight. Then we'll talk about what does success look like if we have a really safe community. What does success look like in the future? And then we'll go from there and really identify, okay, if we know what success looks like, then what are the steps, the goals that we need to do to achieve that success. One change from the very beginning, the very first of these 5 workshops that we did, is that we won't be actually prioritizing tonight. We found that we were a little overeager in trying to take all the public input and develop a poll that accurately reflected the goals that are, kind of were discussed during the evening. And that's because you could look at 4 goals identified goals might really be the same one, just different verbiage. And so we try to make sure that we can coalesce those into a package that you see your work, but is also easier to prioritize. And so what that means is tomorrow we'll be sending you another email with some directions in terms of how to prioritize, as well as the raw information from tonight. So nothing will be lost. Everything will be included in the work that you see tomorrow, as well as in the report. So with that, are there any questions about the process and what we're going to be doing this evening before we proceed to introductions? Okay. Oh, one other thing I did want to mention too, we are recording this evening. So wanted to let you know that we are recording, and this will be on the city's website tomorrow. So we're recording each of the workshops. Okay, with that, let's figure out who we have in the room. And so we are asking that you take no more than 30 seconds to introduce yourself. So basically your name, and then kind of your position or affiliation, however you'd like to identify why you think maybe you're a part of this process, whether it's overall or for the public safety work group, and then your hopes specifically for this process this evening. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just look at my screen, and we'll go from there. So actually, I'm going to start with the council member, give her the honors in terms of introductions, etc.
Hello, my name is Christina Valdivia Alcala, and I am the District 2 City Council representative. And I would just say, excuse me if you see me putting popcorn in my mouth, because I haven't eaten. So I will try to turn it off when I'm eating, but I'm really excited about being here. Thank you.
Yeah, I was able to fit mine in right before we jumped on. I totally understand. Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah Schumacher. I'm a resident in Council District 6, and my hopes for this process for this particular session is to get some questions answered, and then also work towards a path of positive actions for our entire community.
Great, thank you, Hannah. Gretchen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gretchen Spiker. I'm the Director of Communications for the City of Topeka. And tonight I'm excited to listen to all of your great ideas, learn from you all, and see what I can do in my role at the City of Topeka to help bring your vision to life. So thank you.
Thanks, Gretchen. Chief Wheelis.
My name is Brian Wheelis, and I'm the Chief of Police here in Topeka, Kansas. The expectation I have for tonight is I'm looking forward to getting some input and feedback about what the community expectations are for public safety in this community, and also what our priorities should be if they have that kind of valued input. I would appreciate that.
Great, thank you, Chief. Danielle.
Hi, I'm Danielle Twinlow. I am an educator here in our community. I am an advocate and a mom of 6 and a grandmother. So this is really important to me to be a part of the process where my family is growing and the people that I serve are, and hope that we can really come to solutions that helps our entire community as a whole.
Great, thank you. And my tiles are kind of moving around on my screen so I hope that I get everyone. So if I don't by the end of this session, please let me know. So Chief Duke.
Hi, my name is Craig Duke. I'm the Chief of Topeka Fire Department. Just over my shoulder is Interim Deputy Chief Randy Phillips. My goals of being on here is we are community service, and we have to make sure that we're serving the community they want us to. I'm looking for ideas for them from the community itself and other partners to make sure we're doing what our community wants and what our community needs.
Thank you, Chief. Jessica.
Hello, I am Jessica Porter, and I am a child welfare advocate, member of the community from Topeka. So born and raised in Topeka. I am really just here a lot to observe and really understand what all public safety really entails. I from the first time we all met, I was kind of shocked as to like what all went into public safety for everybody. It was very interesting how really a lot of our different subject matters correlate with each other. So I'm just very interested to see what we come up with today.
Thanks, Jessica. Yeah. And actually to that point, it is amazing in, I think each of our other 3 workshops to date, there's been a public safety component. It's just very important, right? Regardless of whether you're talking about neighborhoods or quality of life, infrastructure, it all relates to safety. And so certainly that's something as we go through this process, not just tonight, but kind of in the concluding workshop and the report, you'll see that there's a lot of connection points. So thanks for bringing that up and being here, Jessica. Appreciate it. Connie.
Hi, I'm Connie Hood. I am newly retired from the health department, Shawnee County Health Department. And after a 25-year absence from Topeka, I moved back into North Topeka. I'm here because we have big problems in North Topeka, in Old North Topeka East, down by Noto. And I'm hoping that being here, I'll get ideas, I can express concerns, and you can help us make North Topeka better. I
Nice.
think it's a great place to live.
Great, Connie. Thanks for being here. But you want to improve upon it. I could tell by the look on your face and what you've said. So that's great. Yeah. Earl.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
coming to
Earl,
us from San Francisco?
do what?
Are you coming to us from San Francisco?
No, I've been to San
Oh.
Francisco. It was a pretty background though.
Yeah,
So I'd like to be
so-
there now. I guess the weather is improving. So yeah, Earl McIntosh, I sell insurance for a living. That's what I do. I've been in Topeka for 30 years. I was asked to be on here and I accepted. I'm excited, to meet new people in the community and hear different opinions. I want a safe place. I have 3 children. I want Topeka to be the safest place for police and fire. And I do want to mention, I think we have a great police department, well led, and the same thing for the Topeka Fire. We're really blessed to have 2 great organizations here in town that really take care of us. And if I need help, I know that they'd help. So I just want to pass that on. I'm here just to learn and if I have ideas when people are sharing their ideas, I can expound upon that. So I'm new to this, so that's it.
Well, again, we're all on a level playing field here. I want to make that clear again. And so we have experts in the field, but we also have just community members who care about Topeka. And so certainly you'll learn from one another, but I encourage you to share your ideas. And as Steve said, there's no stupid idea. We welcome them all. And there's a vetting process. So just because you raise something doesn't necessarily mean it rises to the top of priority. And Earl, I'm not speaking just to you, I'm speaking to everybody, so please, we encourage everybody to make sure that they're sharing what their hopes and their ideas.
Yep. Thanks for letting me be here. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you being here. Judge.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Karan Thadani. I'm administrative judge for the Topeka Municipal Court. I'm also the department director, so I ensure that the court runs in a just and equitable fashion and everybody's treated fairly. Public safety, I feel like I'm part of the discussion because when I took the oath, I think people rely on the judge. Public safety, community safety is something that people look to the courts for. I'm vested in the community. I've been here in and around Topeka since 2003. I have 3 daughters. 2 of them are in school. 1 of them goes to daycare. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. I used to be the chief of prosecution prior to my appointment to the bench. So I'm excited to hear what people have to say. Thank you for having me.
We're glad you're here, even though you're going to root for the Longhorns tonight. So, Isabelle.
Hi, my name is Isabelle Hutkins, and I'm currently getting my master's at Washburn University. All my studies have been focused on policing and specifically community policing. So I'm really hoping that I'll learn more about what we're doing with that and have some questions answered.
Great, thank you, Isabelle. Let's see, I'm Sheldon.
Hi, I'm Sheldon Kern. I'm a Washburn the senior at Washburn. I'm just here to learn, and I've lived here in Topeka all of my life, and that's about it.
Great, Sheldon, we're glad you're with us again. Meg.
Hi, I am a 22-year citizen of Topeka. I'm, I guess, a community member here. I'm also a volunteer with the Topeka Police Department. So hi, Chief, how are you? I live near Huntoon and Wanamaker, and I'm in West Topeka. So I'm very curious about how we can make Huntoon specifically safer and with all the growth in this area. So that's kind of my one of my objectives. I'm definitely here to learn. I'm an accountant for the state of Kansas. I've been a state employee for 15 years. So I bring kind of a diverse viewpoint here, but that's who I am and why I'm here.
Great. Welcome. Thank you, Meg. Judy, who was the first person to join us, and she's almost the last person that we're asking to introduce herself. So welcome, Judy.
Thank you. I'm Judy Wilson, and I've been with the Safe Streets program for 17 years. It's part of the Prevention Resiliency Services. I do Neighborhood Watch. We have 143 neighborhoods, National Night Out, the Safe Streets Coalition, and I do presentations on safety to reduce crime. And today I just want to continue to work with our great partners, the police department, the fire department, and others who support our neighborhoods and reduce crime.
Great. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to have city staff bring us home with their introductions. And so, Josh.
Hi, everybody. I couldn't get the mute button done. I'm Josh Mcinerney. I'm a financial analyst for the city of Topeka, and I'll be one of the facilitators tonight. And what I'm kind of hoping to get out of this process is just getting the priorities for public safety set so we can budget to better outcomes within the city.
Great. Thank you. Adam.
I'm Adam Vaughn, and like Josh, I'm in the budget and performance office. And this has been an exciting process so far. As mentioned, this is our 4th workshop that we've had, and we're excited about how the process has been and the way that we're going to continue to update our budget and continue to get feedback from the community so that we can offer the best services that the community wants. Thanks.
Great. And Kalea.
Yeah, hi everyone. I am one of the staff members that works with Adam and Josh. I am the grant writer for the city of Topeka. I've been here like 10 days, so new to the community. I'm anxious to kind of hear what's out there. And it also helps me, gives me a little bit more insight as I write grants for the city.
Great. Well, welcome again, everybody. And as I mentioned, everybody here, we're just so glad that you're all here to participate. You bring different perspectives and different ideas, but you know, the hopes are the same, right? You want a safer community, and there's so many different ways to look at safety. And so we're glad to talk about all of those things tonight. So let's just talk a little bit about the overview of this process. And so you've heard us mention a couple of times that this is our 4th workshop. And so we've structured this conversation around the 5 priorities that were established by the governing body in the 2022 budget. And so you see here listed on the screen what those 5 priorities are. And tonight we're talking about a continuing commitment to public safety. So what are we really trying to achieve overall with this process? First of all, we want to determine what success looks like. And so what that means is if we're considering a safe community, what does that really mean? How can we define that? If we're considering a continuing investment in neighborhoods, what does that mean? What are we trying to achieve in our neighborhood? So in each of these workshops, we're working to help define what that success is. Then we are going into brainstorming, as Steve has mentioned, kind of specific goals and objectives. And then that process will allow us to go through the prioritizations that, exercise that we'll be asking you to do through an email tomorrow. We are having 6 workshops. The agenda for each of these workshops are identical. Just the topic is different. And we will be having then a final workshop in which we're inviting everybody who's been involved in all the first 5 workshops to come together and kind of see the work and weigh in on the work of your fellow community members. So there are three kind of distinct stakeholder groups that have been participating in this process. First of all, always at the top of the list are citizens, right? So the people who live, work, and play in Topeka and really want to make sure that the community can be the best that it can be. Then also elected officials have been participating, not in all of the workshops, but several of them, and staff. And the reason that I really wanted to make sure that we listed these three types of stakeholders is because everybody is on the same platform. So while the staff facilitators won't necessarily be brainstorming with you, other staff members who are in your breakout rooms will be brainstorming with you. And so they'll bring, yes, that knowledge and those ideas. And of course, since they're in your breakout rooms, they can also be a resource to you as well. But staff and the elected officials aren't here just to observe, they're here to participate. And so I wanted to make sure that that was understood as well. So here's our timeline for this process. And so here we are in February 7th already, discussing public safety. We have a break next week, and we'll be doing the 5th and final of the 5 workshops on the 21st of February. And then we've given ourselves some time in between that 5th and 6th workshop to really make sure that we can structure a process and an agenda, a discussion for that final workshop on March 10th that everybody will be invited to. So we do ask for you to mark your calendars for 4 p.m. on March 10th so that you can come participate with the rest of the community. Lastly, I just wanted to kind of show you this very simple graphic so you kind of have an understanding of what we're working toward tonight, okay? So we're starting with those priorities. And so in this particular case, the public safety is the priority that the governing body has identified. Next, we're going to be, this gives us a structure for the priorities, okay? Next, we're gonna say, okay, if public safety is an issue, what are the 3, 4, or 5 kind of broad categories in which goals could be identified? And so just for discussion purposes tonight, I put community partnerships. That could be something that comes out of your discussion tonight. It might not be, and that's fine. It's just something that I thought might resonate with you. And then an objective might be to strengthen ties to neighborhoods, okay? So what we're going to be doing tonight is identifying those goal categories, those goal areas, and the objectives. And then tomorrow we will be going through the prioritization exercise. So are there any questions about the process itself? No questions about the process itself? Steve or any other staff members, did I miss anything on that? Okay. All right, so what we're going to do now is Adam is going to share his screen and give you, as I mentioned, the environmental scan. So really kind of setting the foundation to make sure that we're all starting at least with that base level of information related to public safety.
All right, now's the time to pull out the popcorn. So this will be a fairly short presentation, so about 7-10 minutes. So I'm just going to give a high-level overview so that we can open it up for questions at the end, so that you'll have that opportunity where you can ask questions about things as they are now. And so as we start, we're going to talk a little bit about the overall city budget. And so the city's total operating budget is about $339 million. Of that $339 million, $98 million is part of the city's general fund. And this is particularly important for this workshop because most of the public safety costs for police, fire, and the municipal court come out of the city's general fund. And so these public safety elements make up about 78% of the general fund. And so we've done some modeling of the general fund, what we expect to see in the next 5 years of different expenses and revenues. And why this is important is because each year we have to present a balanced budget in the general fund, which means that our revenues and our expenses match. And so as you can see from this table down here, we expect our the expenses are expected to outpace the revenues over the next 5 years. And so for this reason is a big part of why we're doing these workshops, so that we can talk about what the priorities are in the community, so that we can be informed when we have to make these tough decisions. So when we look at the total city's revenue sources, so this is that $339 million. These are the different sources that we obtain revenue from. In particular, we wanted to highlight property tax down here, which is 17% of the total city budget's revenue sources. In the general fund, it's about 1/3 of the budgeted revenues. And so each dollar of property tax that citizens in Topeka pay, about 25% of that dollar goes to the city of Topeka as property taxes. And so property taxes is probably the revenue source that the city has the most control over. But at the same time, the city recognizes that there's other entities that also collect property tax. And so we are very careful with raising the property tax level. In the fall of 2021, the city conducted a citizen survey. And from that survey, citizens said that the 3 best reasons to live in Topeka was the cost of living, affordable housing, and quality housing. Additionally, it gave us priorities of areas that we should emphasize as a city, which was maintenance of streets, enforcement of codes and ordinances, effectiveness of communication, overall quality of water and sewer utilities, and overall quality of police services. Each year, the governing body sets goals for each of their budget priority areas. For public safety, there were 6 different goals, which were continuing active and strenuous recruitment of police officers and firefighters, and maintain an optimal level of officers and firefighters. 2, continue maintenance and replacement of public safety fleet, technology, and equipment. 3, continue to evaluate public safety allocations to ensure appropriate resources. 4, continue to promote and develop public engagement and awareness campaigns through neighborhoods, public presentations, and social media. 5, set master plan, including an active plan to improve cost effectiveness and service delivery in the fire department. And 6, continue working with community partners to implement mental health programming, including the alternative sentencing court. And so I will mention immediately the alternative sentencing court. So what this is a program that helps to address the needs of defendants with mental health challenges. And so and the judge can probably offer more details if there are any questions about that, but it gives an opportunity for those that have some of those challenges to have an alternative process. A little bit more into the citizen satisfaction in regards to public safety. 36% of respondents in that survey said they felt safe in the city. 85, oh, go ahead.
Adam, I'm sorry, can I interrupt really quick? Earl had a question and asked
Oh, yes,
about,
please.
yeah.
I was just getting ready to type a response. The alternative
Okay.
sentencing court is up
Sorry.
and running. I'm the judge that handles it, so sorry if I spoke out of turn.
Oh, no,
I'm just
that's
kidding.
great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Going back to those survey responses, 85% of respondents shared that they felt safe in their neighborhood during the day, and 63% responded that they felt safe in their neighborhood at night. So the Strategies Against Violence Everywhere is a program that was developed in 2020 by the police department, which is a community-based program to help reduce violent crimes in the city. Fire response is measured on something called, it measures the response time of the firefighters. And the goal is to keep that of 90% of responses to be under 4 minutes. And so I don't have, the chief called me today and said he has better numbers for you. So he can share that as well when we get some more questions, if anyone has questions on that. And then the fire department also does offer free smoke detector installation. So one last slide here is the police department's clearance rates. And so it's measured against the national average. And so you can see there's a couple areas that were higher than, a couple that were lower than. And so this is something that the police uses to measure their effectiveness as well. So with that, I will stand for questions. And again, there's other experts here that may know the answers better than I. So I'll help guide to who may know the answer to questions. So yeah, Hannah.
Hi, thanks. So I have a couple of questions. First, I was curious if you had any information about like the demographics of the citizens who completed the satisfaction survey, maybe like what zip codes were represented or income levels. So that's my first question. And then I have one after that.
Yeah, I don't have it off the top of my head, but that was recorded. And so I can, after the meeting, I can send you that information.
Okay, because I was just wondering if it was like a good representation of Topeka or what. And then another question I had is related to SAVE and the information you guys sent out in the email that you kind of just went over in the slides. In the little blurb and the information you guys set out, it said in 2020, the police department implemented SAVE. And I was curious if you could elaborate on what implemented meant and if there was any data from that yet.
So the wording may have been something on my end, but I'll let Police Chief Wheelis handle that.
Yeah, I think there is some clarification, and it's a great session for us to do that. I think to give the credit where it was really due, the SAVE program was initiated by the District Attorney's Office here in Shawnee County, along with the Center for Peace and Justice originally, and it was a grant-funded effort with a strategy that's been incorporated into some degree of success in different cities around the country. I think the data that I would point to more than the SAVE program, because it's had some challenges in regards to as it's moved around from one community service base to another, and as we went through some staffing and some hiring processes through the District Attorney's Office for the support staff that goes with that. I think I would point more to the crime statistics and not necessarily the clearance rates. That's kind of a little nuance I wanted to explain. Clearance rates are one of the things that are nationally looked at. In other words, that's how police departments compare themselves to each other all over the country. The crime statistics that we do from year to year and look at over longer periods of time are what we compare to here in Topeka. And I can share with the data that I would tell you, the SAVE program is one of many components that we have, community outreach and engagement here in Topeka. But the crime statistic report that we released from 2021 was a 6-year low in homicides, a 3-year low in shootings, a 13% decrease in violent crime, and a 25% in overall crime rate, while a lot of cities around us were showing historic record violent crime. So those are the numbers that I would point to in regards to the success of the programs that are working here in Topeka. We certainly enjoy a lot of community support, which makes our job a lot easier, but those are the numbers that I would point to. And we certainly have that report publicly published on the city's website, and the Greater Topeka Partnership and all of our media partners have put it out in the last few weeks as well. So I think that's really more data that would show you how programs have worked here in the Topeka Shawnee County area.
Great, thank you, Chief. I think Councilwoman Valdivia. Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Okay, my question too had been about the zip codes, or if zip codes were used. And I see that there was some information coming in the chat. The one thing though that I noticed is that some of the information you stated said that the survey results showed that people believe that good place to live in Topeka was affordable housing and low housing cost. I was born and raised in Topeka. My generations of family have all lived and still live in Topeka. I think that we have to be very transparent, however, in that we have a housing study that shows differing information, especially not only in LMI communities, but communities where lower income white folks, Black and brown folks, there is not affordable enough housing. There's not enough affordable housing. And I really think that when we're talking about these type of informational settings where we want to hear citizen feedback, we need to provide a variance of information so that they can get a full picture. One of the reasons why that housing study, which the city paid for along with its partners, said that a living wage is needed of $16.81 to be able to afford a decent 2-bedroom with the utilities paid. So I'm just asking for those folks that are not familiar with all the studies that are out there to understand that's also a part of the equation that we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Very helpful information for us. Thank you. Any other questions?
Adam, I think Hannah's got her hand raised.
Yeah, Hannah.
Sorry, I just never put it down.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. In the event that she might have new questions, which is always fine. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Earl McIntosh. I don't know how to put the little hand emoji up there. That's kind of cool. Where do you do that at?
So if you go down to the bottom of your screen, it says reactions.
Oh, right there. Okay.
Yep.
I see it. Okay. My question is, and maybe I'm not seeing this right, is on the clearance rates. So they have percentages there. I don't have them up in front of me right now. That means at least one person has been arrested. That's what you put in the documentation that you guys sent us. What happened to the other percentages? Is that percentages from the rest of the crimes? So do we have a lot of unsolved crimes in Topeka that one person hasn't been arrested? That's why we have different percentages of numbers for the different categories? That's my question.
Yeah, I'll let Chief handle that.
Yeah, it's a good question, Earl. But the clearance rate specifically pertains to the definition of whether a crime is cleared or not, is whether, in layman's terms, it's more like solved. So that would mean, in other words, you might have 4 people are arrested for one crime. It shows that one crime cleared, but the other percentages are the ones that are not cleared, or in more layman's term, not solved.
Right.
To the standards that they define in those crime statistics, because that's one of the things to remember too. Across the country, locally, you might have different, and to state, you might have different variations or definitions of a particular crime. For like aggravated assault, or aggravated battery might mean different things in different states. But the clearance rate is determined by the FBI is the official uniform crime report, I think is what you see as a national crime report that the FBI does. And so they define those categories as far as what pertains to a very minute level, what pertains to making something cleared or solved or not. Some examples that we have exceptional clearances as well. You might have the death of an offender where they are killed in the commission of a crime. That would be a clearance rate of an exceptional variety. So there's lots of different ways to get cleared, but it's just in general terms for this setting, it is very much a distinction between whether it's solved or not solved.
Yeah, that's the way I understood it. So I would sure like to know how many unsolved crimes we have from 2021 or 2020, or things that haven't been, assaults and whatever else.
I can tell you off the top of my head that especially is the top crimes or the highest severity level crimes as far as homicides go, and we do put that stat out, and I'm working on trying to get the link up to the report in the chat room. But
it's in the chat. It's in the chat. So the link to the year-end report's in the chat. Yeah.
So that'll tell you specifically what crimes in that nature aren't solved, because it actually has the numbers instead of the percentage.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, great discussion. Thank you for those questions. And Adam, thanks again for the great information on the budget generally and some specific indicators related to public safety. So, okay, so we're going to stop talking now as the staff and consulting team, and we're going to ask you guys to start talking with each other and then talking to us. And so what we're going to be doing is a series of breakout rooms, but because we know that you need a little, just get a little energy going, we're going to give you a little break first. So if you would come back in 9 minutes, so at 4:50, And if you would come back, and then we will go into our first series of breakout rooms, okay? Maybe just a couple of housekeeping items. So when we either take a break or are going into breakout rooms, we are stopping the recording because there's technically nothing to be recording, and we can't record breakout rooms. The other thing too is I know I sometimes have to mess with my screen depending on if I'm presenting or facilitating, but I know I find it beneficial when I can see as many squares on the screen, tiles on the screen as possible. And so if you hit gallery view up, you'll see kind of a series of bars. And if you hit gallery view, you're going to be able to see more people than not. Also, there is a bar between where you see the pictures and where you see the PowerPoint, and you can move that bar back and forth so that you can see more people or fewer people, depending on what your preference is. Okay. Okay, are we ready to get going, everybody, again? I know that we've lost, I think we've lost the fire department. They're still trying to, I think, get back with us. Hopefully they will. Are you guys hearing me? Because I don't hear a thing. Okay. Great. All right. Okay. So just first of all, a little bit of a reminder again. It's like a funnel. Okay. And so we've started with public safety. Okay. That's a council priority. Next, we want to identify really where those goal categories are. So it's not as broad as public safety, but it's not as specific as those precise programs or processes or outcomes that you want to see. So our next exercise is really helping us to focus on what those goal categories are. So I hope that you would have seen this in your materials that you received before the meeting. So what we're asking you to do is, as you consider 5 years hence, and so in February of 2027, which is going to probably be here before we know it, it's crazy times. If Topeka was a safer place, if public safety had been strengthened in that 5 years, what would the headlines be in the Topeka Capital Journal? So we're going to have some awkward Zoom silence, and maybe some of you had already done this homework, but I just wanted, before we send you to your breakout rooms, I'd just like to ask you to go ahead and kind of write some of those down, a few headlines down, as you think about what you want to have achieved in 5 years in the area of public safety. I had a chance to think about that before you joined us this evening, and just if you didn't have a chance, that gave you some time. So we'd like to share kind of really what your hopes are with your colleagues. And so we're going to be putting you into breakout rooms. There will be 3 breakout rooms. Each of them will have a staff facilitator. So Adam, Josh, and Kalea are your facilitators, and this is their 4th go around and can lead you through this process if I don't make myself clear. So in the breakout rooms, we want you to not only share what you would hope the headlines would be, but certainly have a discussion around your hopes as well. That's right. It's one thing to just kind of list things. It's another thing maybe to give a little bit of context. And so feel free to share that as well. We're going to give you let's say 14 minutes to share your headlines. Then we will capture all of those on a shared document, and we ask that each of you each of the breakout rooms provide a spokesperson to share kind of that, just the headlines and the discussion, right? The headlines and the discussion. And we ask that not be the staff facilitator. So remember, facilitators, that's your right. Not only capture the headlines, but figure out who would volunteer to provide that group report. So any questions regarding the task at hand, as it were? Okay, Bree, if you would open the breakout rooms, that would be great. Back. the magic of Zoom. You don't get to stay and hang out and talk with your friends. Not everybody's back yet, though.
Just the all-star group.
Oh, Adam, come on. Meg's agreeing with you, though.
We're the homeless task force already, right, Adam?
That's right.
Recorded.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. So as you can, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I don't know, Josh or Adam or Kalea, are one of you sharing a screen? Great. I don't know who that was, but thank you. So we're just going to go through, and I would ask that everybody who is, as we're discussing the hopes from group Breakout Room 1, you have your videos on, everybody else has their videos off, etc., just so we can see kind of where that discussion was. So with that, if you'd go ahead and, unless you're in the Breakout Room 1, please turn off your videos. I'll model that by turning off mine. And so Adam, did you guys assign somebody?
Yep. Earl, you ready?
Do you want my video on for when I'm talking, or?
Yes, so if you're in the breakout room that's talking, then your video is on. Yes.
Okay. Well, we had a good group. We've got a very diverse group of people, different backgrounds. And one thing, the theme that's really hit in our group is the people who are homelessness, and the mental illnesses that are affecting our city. And we really need to look, we're focusing, as we'll go through this, you'll notice we focus a lot on that, because if we can help these people, I think that it'll be a great, it'll be a feather in our cap in Topeka, and be a great success story, be a great headline. Topeka, crime at historical low. We all want that. Crime at all-time low. Those are great goals. The judge brought up that, and he sees every day, is property crimes. So hopefully record low on property crimes, by helping people find jobs, affordable housing, helping with mental health. That should come into play and help record lower property crimes, because people aren't desperate. Community policing reimagined. I don't know what we didn't discuss what reimagined is, but I'm sure the police are always continuously working to better and reevaluate programs, bring in new programs. And so just policing reimagined. Community partnerships between law enforcement and community members. I think we have a great relationship between community members and law enforcement and fire department as well. We want to keep everybody staffed, police department fully staffed. Chronic unsheltered homeless population reduced to 0 in Topeka. We have as our representative from the city council who's here, she says it is an epidemic problem here in Topeka, and I can tell you it happens in all neighborhoods. I mean, every part of town is affected by the homelessness, and somehow we need to get a handle on it. Increased citizen review boards. I don't know what that means. I know what a review board is, but to define that further, I couldn't tell you. We didn't talk about it. But anytime we can build bridges in the community to the police and fire department, the better off we are. Neighborhood watches across the city. I think that's so important to have active, engaged neighborhood watches, and then really, I'm adding on, focus on if somebody's really working hard at a neighborhood watch, that the city and our elected officials support those specific people. Mental health, we talked about that earlier. If you look behind a lot of our homelessness, and crime, we have so many people that it's mental health is right there. Number one, they don't have usually find they don't have the family support structure a lot of us have. And when you feel alone, that really affects your mental health. Vulnerable communities successfully complete training for on hazard risk protocols near the river, railroad tracks, near interstates. I would like to throw in there along the Shunga by where I'm at. It is full of homeless people along the Shunga from Fair Lawn all the way out. And so, and I'm assuming that the police work hand in hand with certain organizations in the city to learn about where they can help people and where they can help the homeless. Topeka Police Department offers concealed carry courses. There's a former chief of police, James Craig of Detroit, Michigan. He offered a free concealed carry training and self-defense towards the citizens of Detroit, and it really helped reduce crime. And we're talking about self-defense here, that's it. Next one, budget surplus. What do we do with the budget surplus? I'm sure that's a fight for a lot of different areas, but it could be helped to help the homeless, mental health, can pay for other programs dealing with the problem we're discussing. Okay, affordable housing. I mean, I've been hearing that for the past few years now. That's really on the radar of Topeka. You know, if you don't have a place to live, or you can't pay the rent, or if you pay the rent and you can't eat, that's just going to cause problems. And so we need to do a good job of working with Topeka County and private entities. Also, the next one following along on that is the religious community. And I was the one that brought this idea up. I think the religious community, and I respect the religious community. I go to church regularly. We could spend more money into the Topeka community and also help with some more of these commitments with the homeless. Next one, symbiotic relationship between the police and community leads to higher clearance rates. Now, the way I understood clearance rates were if someone has been charged. So we do need more the clearance rates to become higher. A great idea, the former Mcinerney, I don't know who owns the Mcinerney clock tower, the city own it or the county, but there's some buildings out there that would be great to be turned into apartments for the homeless. I think that's a great idea. So we've really focused on mental health, homelessness, affordable housing. I mean, things that really needs to be just continuously talked about and addressed. So that was our group one.
Great, and partnerships also I kind of noted.
I'm sorry, partnerships. Well. That is correct.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the key.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And community building, all partnerships are important. So any comments from the rest of your group? Yes, please, Councilmember.
I would just say one thing I forgot to say with the group, and they were a good group, they've been a good group to work with, is that as we look at all of this, right, and understand that these are calls to the religious sector, private sector, public sector, you know, neighborhoods, et cetera, all of us as people that live in Topeka, not only can we look at this as a way to retain the people that we have here already, because we know that we struggle with losing population, is that if we can deal with these challenges effectively and realistically and proactively instead of just sometimes talking about them, then we can also see this as a true avenue of economic development. Because when we get these issues addressed and start working on them, we can display our city even more proudly. And we know that there's a big push to have more people come here. And we want to be able to sell Topeka honestly for all the initiatives that we're working on as a community and ultimately achieve as a community. That was that part. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for that. So one thing, I mean, you guys have hit on a lot of different aspects of public safety. One thing I didn't see was really, did you guys have any discussion at all related to the fire service? No, and that's fine. No, there's like, it's broad, right? Public safety is a broad, again, it can be such a broad topic, but I just wanted to ask that question. So, okay, group one, thank you so much. Wonderful job. You guys can turn off your videos now, and we're going to go to group two.
Danielle, that
Josh?
was our group.
Yeah.
Okay, I was waiting to say, okay, go. Yes, this is our group.
Great.
So we had actually pretty similar, everyone kind of agreed as we threw things out in many different ways that are going to mimic a lot of what we already saw in the first group. So public safety improves with deployment of tiny homes, kind of the idea of a program for the riverfront, on the riverfront for homeless. We of course want to see safest capital in America, best city to live in. We discussed taking an upstream approach to public safety, increase the quality of life for all. We were going to dive a little bit more into what that meant. More services for the disabled and inclusion for the disabled.
Danielle, I'm sorry to interrupt. So did you say you're going to dive in a little bit more to upstream approach to public safety to increase the quality of life for all? Did you say you were going to dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, like in our second, in our next breakout.
Okay.
Meeting.
Oh yes. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Which the general idea was looking at some of the core issues that are related to quality of life, such as social determinants of health, and addressing those, which in turn reduce crime within a community, and how that could work. Public safety improves as a result of successful mental health programs. This came up over and over again. Topeka sets aside differences to come together as one community. And again, that one was brought up in a couple different ways, and we decided we wanted to dive in more about what everyone meant on that. Investment in wraparound services, such as Impact Avenues, has reduced the unsheltered population. So again, another approach to addressing homelessness and mental health and other programs, those services all in one. Enforcing landlord code to address urban blight and the safety revolving around homes that are unoccupied and dangerous. Common sense gun safety education promoted across the community has decreased violence. Washburn declared the safest campus in the Midwest.
Nice.
And the police department partners with community to develop a citizens review board, which would build trust and relationships.
Great. I see here kind of the issue of the code enforcement, right? The landlord code, and how that, again, that's something else that does improve public safety and safety generally, right? And so, because that's not just public safety, I mean, that's not just police, law enforcement, but it also does affect the fire service as well, right? You know, so.
And an example of just, you know, an unsafe home and kids walking home from school, going to check it out, and it's an unsafe structure, or, you know, dangerous things that are lying around. I mean, it just becomes just a safety issue altogether, or the recent vacant homes, the increase of them catching on fire. Yeah, so.
Yeah, great. Other comments from your colleagues in the breakout room 2? Chief, is there anything, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're probably used to it. So is there anything that you'd like to add or address regarding the conversation in your breakout room?
I am used to it. And much like you were saying, Patty, I'm extremely disappointed that the fire department is not more included in this. And I just want to say, we still love our fire department, even if we're not about them. We know they're a big part of the public safety as well. But no, I think our group did great. And I think we got some broad things that we can definitely dive into.
Yeah. And again, we're looking for, themes and kind of, and we'll get to group 3 now here. And but Danielle mentioned, there's already themes that are emerging, right, from group 1 to group 2. So thank you. I'll save a couple comments for here in just a minute. So great. Thanks. Great job, group 2. So now group 3.
Okay, group 3, that's going to be me. And we do have some input from the fire department. So you'll hear that in a minute. We had the following headlines. Homeowner numbers improve as the number of abandoned or dilapidated homes decreased, especially in lower income areas. No more fires in abandoned homes for an entire year. Rescue mission moves to the edge of the city with the metro helping to get people back and forth. CIT program expands to cover all service areas in Topeka. CIT program expands to 24/7 coverage. Topeka Fire Department and EMTs to be CIT trained as well. All emergency calls responded to within 4 minutes. TPD used innovative technology to solve cold case homicides. TFD delivers the advanced life support to all districts in Topeka. City of Topeka touts public education program with decrease of crime. City of Topeka becomes a pulse point community. Neighborhoods reduce crime by 75%. And community activism program prevents the burning of abandoned homes in Topeka.
Nice. I've got a couple of questions, but wondered first of all, if your group had anything they'd like to add to that great list related to the discussion at all.
I would just say this is that while currently the CIT resources that the Chief Willis can probably speak to this better than I can, but having been on the street and run calls and worked hand in hand with the CIT officers, I think it's important to remember that fire department and police department are working together, trying to address some of those issues with individuals. A lot of times it's the fire department going out on a call, on a medical call, that's asking dispatch to send the CIT officer over when we come across a situation we believe is relevant, which they do a great job of. Once again, it's one of those things where more resources allocated, more that program can be expanded. And like I said, Chief Willis might be able to jump in here a little bit too on that. But we do work hand in hand in using that program to try and get people the help they need.
Absolutely. And just I'm familiar with CIT programs, but just to make sure that everybody understands what that is, would one of you please explain that to the group as a whole?
I think that'd probably be better for Chief Willis because it's more about the type of training that some of their PD officers are receiving.
Chief, do you mind?
Intervention, crisis intervention training is what it stands with, and it's basically here in Topeka for several years, and it's now become kind of the national model approach that lots of agencies are doing all across the country. But like I said, we've been doing it for several years here. But we actually have co-responders, is what we call them, but they're mental health professionals who go out and they're partnered up with a law enforcement officer, sergeant, and they respond out to calls in real time for mental health services and people in crisis. It gives us a more holistic approach and support. It also lets that officer and the co-responder work through the mental health assessment service processes that we have here in Topeka without tying up a lot of other auxiliary resources. Now, having said that, I do think, and I think Chief Duke will learn in here, but it's absolutely the way that we need to respond to these calls. And if anything, we need to increase resources and efforts in this area, because I think that is one of the biggest community expectations that we have. And a lot of what we've heard here today is echoing that. And we all understand the mental health crisis that this country and certainly this city and area is in. And this is a good discussion point for how we deal with it on a holistic level as a city, not just a police department, not as a fire department, but all together. And we certainly have a lot of experts here in town with Vallejo, and there's a lot of overlap, as everybody's already said, in regards to the unsheltered who have mental health issues. in some cases. But I think Chief Duke could talk a little bit about it, but I wouldn't necessarily dismiss the need for that training among fire personnel as well, because they sometimes are in scenes that didn't start off like a police response that then end up in a police response. So I'll let him take that part. But crisis intervention training is just a more holistic medical and mental health professional assisted response to police calls for service in a very simple nutshell.
Great. One other question I had is, City of Topeka becomes a pulse point community. Somebody share
Yes,
what that means.
and you should be familiar with that because they have it in Lawrence.
Oh, I live in Liberty, Missouri. So.
Oh, I thought you were there. Okay. Anyway, so Pulse Point, it's a national program, and what cities do, they try to become a Pulse Point community. And if Topeka is able to do that, now I'll explain what Pulse Point is. You know, it's where the community's taught hands-only CPR, stop the bleed, and there's this program. Basically, anybody who has had any type of training at all will go into this software. It's called Pulse Point, and then when dispatches a medical call, and if someone's close by that's had that training, like an EMT, an AEMT, or a paramedic, well, they'll get a message on their phone saying, hey, around the corner at this location, someone's having a cardiac arrest. And they, obviously having the skill sets, will be able to respond to there and hopefully get there before actually EMS, fire, and an ambulance arrives. And this, like I say, this is a program that will really help us as a fire department and the community as a whole, where we might be busy somewhere else, someone's able to tend to that individual until we arrive there. And like I say, Lawrence has it, the Kansas City area has it. I think it's all the way out to Jefferson County. We could type the Pulse Point, you know, call it the I-70 corridor, you know, basically saying, hey, if you have a cardiac issue on I-70 between Topeka and Jefferson City, that you're going to have someone who's probably a Pulse Point member save your life.
And Danielle's asked if that could include mental health calls, or is it's
not at this time. It's mostly cardiac arrest, and that's where we have to have someone on the scene at sometimes at a time quicker than we may get in there 4 or 6 minutes, you know, to where they can at least give them hands-only CPR until the professionals get there.
Okay, thank you. So if everybody wants to go ahead and turn their videos back on, I want to ask the chiefs, I'm putting them on the spot again here a little bit, but we saw, I think it was Breakout Room 1, who basically talked about resources, right? And so like what resources are and how do we, you know, deploy them and that kind of thing. And so I wondered if, in looking back at the information in terms of the governing body's priorities, there was a lot discussed about staffing as well as other resources. So I say other resources as in facilities or equipment or those kinds of things. And so chiefs, I want to give you an opportunity to like 3 minutes to say, to let folks know things like what kinds of resource needs you might have, or if you're golden and don't need anything more than what you already have. And maybe particularly focusing on recruitment.
Well, I can tell you I think the best place to start is maybe where we are currently. We're a lot of 299 sworn law enforcement officers in the City of Topeka Police Department. We are currently 28 officers down. For the better part of the last couple of years, we've been anywhere between 20 and 30-ish down, depending on recruiting cycles. And recruiting cycles for us is retirements. They go through the academy and replacements. And I think that's the biggest part that we always like to talk about when we're educating the public is, for a police officer, they have to go through a 20-week academy. So when I say 28 officers down, that does not include, we have 5 who just graduated. They're out on the street now. That's not part of that 28. So every bit of the numbers that we have on our books is not out answering calls for service, because we always have a cycle that's going through the academy process to keep up with retirement. So we have hiring and challenges like everybody does these days, and we've had them in law enforcement for a little while longer. As far as resource allocation, the only 2 points I want to make is we're like any other business. We are impacted by supply chain issues in ordering everything that everybody else orders, from vehicles to bullets to handcuffs to uniforms to ink pens and paper. So we have the same supply chain issues that a lot of places have. Obviously, we have some specialized equipment as well that's impacted by those two things. So I think the governing body and the city leadership for the last several years has heard over and over and over again from the community to fully fund and fully staff the police department. We are very fortunate with the amount of support that we have in this community and from the city leadership. So that's just kind of an overview. Obviously, a budgetary discussion would take a lot more, but I can tell you that's where we're currently, and that's where we are as far as equipment and recruiting, et cetera. I'll turn it over to Duke.
Yeah, thank you, Chief Duke.
Well, trying to look ahead, obviously, you know, historically, we've gotten away from just putting the wet stuff on the red stuff. We're multitasking, you know, from hazmat calls, technical rescue calls, EMS, the fires, public education. I mean, it's just not showing up for work. We're always busy. And looking at the community as a whole right now, we've got stations that were built in the 1930s. The newest one we have, I think, was 2005. 2005 was the newest station. So when you look at the concentrated area of downtown, you know, people say, well, why is there so many fire stations downtown? You know, that's the oldest part of the city, but the way they built fire stations in those days were they're horse-drawn. All the fire stations were about 1.5 miles apart, and the reason they were that far apart was because that's how fast a horse could go, 1.5 miles before running out of steam. But now we're having to look at things differently. We're having to look at the data to determine where do we need to be located to better serve the community, and we have to keep looking at that. That's one of the big things. You know, nobody likes to, you know, make decisions that may impact their community, not in a negative way, but a change. So change is hard. Change is very hard. But looking at, I mean, with Chief Wilson, I mean, we got a great partnership with them and their people. And, you know, I think these partnerships should be expanded in a way that is advantageous not to only us together, but also the community.
Great, thank you, Chief. Council member, did you have something that you wanted to add? I know you put some things in the chat, but I didn't know if you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I do want to make sure that people take a look at what's in the chat. When what I'm telling you is what I hear from the community that I serve, from those that I represent. That is Oakland, that is North Topeka, and that is a section of East Topeka. I understand that some of these issues may be crossing over to other areas. We have a huge amount of issues that we're dealing with drugs, with mental health, with the chronic unsheltered homeless, with petty theft. And if you look at some of the Facebook pages that we share in our neighborhoods, you'll see the issues with mental health. I personally do not believe, as an elected official, nor do those that I talk to in neighborhoods believe that police should have to carry the burden and become mental health workers, because we are facing shortages in mental health, dollars in mental health, spacing in mental health, that is from the local up to the state, and it just carries on and on. What's happening, in my opinion, and I understand that I'm not the chief, what is happening is that what we see is that this can be very, very frustrating when there are so many calls for mental health that go into PD, and then they go out into the community and try and address these issues. There was an example where there was a 2 or 3 hour issue with a mentally ill man that was crawling across the street and in with the possibility of stopping traffic in front of LULAC in Oakland. And that was, you know, I think that there was at least 2 TPD officers there. My thought, and those that I talk with in the community, is that those positions need to be filled by social workers that are trained to do this. And we need to increase the amount of funding that goes to social workers, that goes to Vallejo, that goes to getting any other units that we need that can bed more people, because we have a crisis in this city. And that is not just with the unsheltered homeless, that is with the mental health issues that we have with those that are working, that are housed in Topeka. And so it stretches everybody too thin, then that ends up impacting that really deep dive that can happen with community policing, with seeing more officers visible in a way that our residents feel important. So this is some of what I am talking about and others are talking about, is how we reimagine policing. And here in District 2, they should not be considered mental health workers.
All right, thank you so much for that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, any questions about any of the headlines or conversations that we all heard? Okay, so our as staff now, what our task is to kind of take what you've given us and digest it into, again, remember, we're kind of coming up with those goal categories. So what does that look like? And so we're going to give you a break for, let's say, 10 minutes. So come back at 5:55. And when you come back, then we will share with you how we are suggesting, based upon the feedback that you've given us right now, how that should be structured. So we'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay, again, thank you. So what we did is took a look at your hopes for the next 5 years for public safety in Topeka. And we've identified 4 specific goals in which we think you can get more, 4 goals in which you think you can develop more specific objectives. So Josh, let me make you co-host so you can share, if you don't mind, please. So first of all, so what you will see in each of these is kind of something in parentheses, okay? And this is just to give you an idea of what we were thinking could fit within that kind of initial statement. It does not mean that you have to come up with objectives according to those. It also does not mean that you have to limit yourself to what's in those parentheses, okay? So foster partnerships to enhance public safety. And so there were a lot of discussions related to partnerships, whether it was, working with neighborhoods, with neighborhood watches, public, private, religious sectors. We also thought that this was an area where, the self-defense, the idea of the self-defense classes could come in. Also really having that public education so people understand, where the crime is happening, how they can protect themselves, how they can, make their community safer. So that's the first goal. Second goal is to reduce the unsheltered population and provide them the resources they need. We heard in each and every one of the breakout groups that this was really an issue, and it's not an issue that's just in one part of the community, but something that needs to be addressed. Then the goal 3 is implement innovative public safety programs. And so this is community policing, it's the CIT programs, it's Pulse Point, it's fire prevention. So really, what are those programs that we should be focusing on? And then provide necessary resources to public safety departments. And so staff, facilities, and equipment. So this could be everything from, innovative recruitment approaches to doing a study related to fire station needs, et cetera, et cetera. So you will have, again, as lay people, some of you might not have an understanding of what some of those needs are, but you do have the fire and police professionals also in your breakout rooms who can help you to really kind of dive into those. So as you look at this, and Josh, I might ask you to scroll back to the top if you don't mind, please. Thank you so much. As you look at these, and consider the things that you feel like Topeka needs to be focusing on so that you have a safe community. Can your specific objectives fit into one of these 4 areas, or did we miss something? Because our next step is to send you back to breakout rooms to really start getting down to the nitty-gritty. I see Isabelle nodding her head. Thank you, Isabelle, for that positive affirmation. But I certainly want to know, did we hit the mark here, or are we missing anything? Chief Willis, yeah. Oh, that's okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it exactly. I wasn't waving. I was saying okay.
Okay.
I was.
I couldn't hear you. We can't hear you. And you weren't muted, so I don't know what the issue is.
Okay. No, I was just an okay symbol.
One of the things one of the things we had talked about in our group was and it might go into goal 3, but kind of not, because there's not like an actual program that I'm aware of. But for our houses that are decrepit, they've already burned, they're just sitting there unsafe. So I just don't know where that maybe fits into these 3 goals. And I just feel like that's a really important safety concern.
When we were brainstorming, that actually did come up. I just didn't put it inside the parentheses so I could add that. I think the term in the brainstorming session we had as facilitators, it was address dilapidated homes or something like that.
Yeah. Or Danielle put code compliance. I think that's good.
And I am going to type in the chat box for everyone that wants to learn more about it. Go onto the city website. It's changing the culture of our property maintenance. And you can see the 5-year plan that we're working on. If we can get all stakeholders involved, city, community, private, this could change the game in Topeka.
Perfect. Awesome. I thought that it might go in goal 3, but I just wanted to make sure. Yeah.
Great. Anything else? Any place else we send you back to your breakout rooms that you're like, gosh, I just don't see where that might fit?
Hey, Patty.
Yes.
I was just wondering, and maybe this is a liberty, but I was just wondering, I think it's really important what Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala was talking about. I didn't know if maybe she could summarize that culture change in like a minute or 2, just to kind of give everybody before we go in the breakout rooms, kind of just a little overview of what that is. I think it would be very helpful.
Sure. And she did put it in the chat, but council member, if you can give a 30 second to 1 minute overview of that effort, that'd be great.
It'll be more like a minute. Changing the culture of property maintenance is looking at code compliance / property maintenance / how do we help our communities to deal with code compliance issues? How do we lean in as communities to help each other before it gets to the code compliance levels? That also means, how do we look at the restructuring that deals with vacant housing, with eyesores in the property, with issues that lead to squatting, et cetera? Does that mean we have to change up the code? Does that mean that we have to have dialogue with, the courts? What does that mean with enhancing our relationship with the county? There are probably 25 different variables that feed into this. There's numerous stakeholders involved in it. The bottom line is that it seeks to lift up neighborhoods, and it seeks to clean up our neighborhoods. It seeks to deal with the vacant housing, vacant structures, and all of this that we're dealing with. And I would just encourage any of you to take a look at it online and become involved.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so we're going to be sending you to your breakout rooms again, same group of folks that you were with before. To echo what Steve said at the very beginning, this is not a time for disagreement or consensus, either one. This is a time for everybody to put their suggestions on paper. Again, the facilitators have done this 3 times before, and so we'll take you through, but in general terms, you will spend more time on the first goal to which you are assigned than you will on subsequent goals, because as you rotate through the goals, a list will have already been started. So you'll be able to review that list. say, oh, yep, that's exactly what I would have been able to put on it, or my gosh, I can't believe that they missed this one, and put that down. So we will be, again, you will have less time on each subsequent goal. You will be able to address each of them. And then we will have each breakout room facilitator make sure that will have looked at the comprehensive list before we bring you back to the group as a whole. So it'll take, there are 4 goals. I'm going to say it's going to take us about 45 minutes probably to get through all 4 of those. So any questions, or facilitators, did I miss any direction? No. Okay, Bree, just send them to their rooms. Send them to their rooms, Bree.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, this meeting's being recorded in case you guys needed to know. Okay, Josh, is that you or Adam? Thank you. You knew what I was asking.
That's
me. I appreciate it. Make it larger for those of us who otherwise I feel the need to put my face right up to the screen. So, so Josh, Kalea, and Adam, you all had the opportunity to go through the entire list.
We kind of ran out of time, and so I kind of gave them the breakdown of what was going to be happening in this session. So we didn't probably 1 and 3 were really good on, but 2 and 4 we didn't have a chance to review.
Okay.
We didn't make it either.
Okay. So, folks, there is a lot here. And so what I'm going to ask that we do, we're not going to spend the time to go through and read each and every possible goal here. But what I'd like to do is ask that, and actually, Josh, I'm going to share my screen only because if I'm kind of facilitating this discussion, it's just a little bit easier, but I very much, you know how much I appreciate you doing that, being willing to do that. Okay, do I need to make it bigger for everybody? Probably.
Yes, please.
Yes. Is that big enough? Everyone? Oh, okay. So, and also, Bree and staff, if you could, if I'm kind of going through this, if you could help me see if anybody's got comments that I'm not seeing, or folks just speak up too, okay? So the first one is to foster partnerships to enhance public safety. This is obviously, it was designed to be broad because there were so many things that could really fit into this. However, you know, as you know, we're trying to get more specific. And so what I see as we go through here is really, again, a need to develop specific relationships with the religious community. I know that the council member talked about the need to get investments from all aspects of the community to foster public safety. So whether that's the religious community to private investors, to all kind of community partners, are really a focus on kind of comprehensive public education of the community. So that was everything from understanding where the needs are, to what programs we already have, to what we can do to as private citizens to help make our community more secure. Funding does come up in a few places here, specifically a public safety sales tax to pay for programs. Oh, and I did not see this, but animal safety and animal control, that absolutely is an issue. Add a citizens review board, I think was also mentioned at a later in a later goal, but so we'll certainly address that. So are we, is there anything in particular, again, as I said, we're not going to read through each and every one of these, but is there anything in particular that somebody wants to comment on, or a theme that you see that really is resonating with you? And again, you're going to see all of this again tomorrow. You'll see the raw data, and then you'll see how we've condensed it to be more specific goals, kind of where it made sense. So you'll be able to see kind of your work that way. But is there anything in particular you'd like to address? Yes, council member.
I would just say, as we look at all of this, we have to think of it as that we are all one community. So especially with the bubbles that we all live in, every community lives in a bubble, right? Every household lives in a bubble, is that if we're going to do this, then when we talk about education, the entire community needs to be educated, from citizens to every stakeholder to every corporation, to get an accurate view of where we are as Topeka. That would be it.
Thank you. Danielle, did you have something that you wanted to say, or I'm sorry, I saw you moving your hand. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, next, reduce the unsheltered population and provide them resources they need. I don't know that we've mentioned this before now tonight, but this was also something that was discussed in a neighborhood workshop, as well as in the quality of life workshop. I don't think it was addressed in the infrastructure workshop. So one of the things that we're going to want to make sure to do is see where all those things come together. And I'm talking about that specifically for that final workshop that we're going to have on March 10th. So lots of here, really, how do we work with the partners to make sure that, so specifically partnership with the Topeka rescue mission, looking at kind of all the factors that lead to homelessness. So affordable housing, lack of childcare, lack of a living wage, the grocery stores. This was interesting. I found here, decrease the mill levy was listed here. The idea that if you're decreasing the mill levy, then you're not having to pay property taxes, which could encourage home ownership. Of course, when you do that, it reduces available funding. So that would be certainly a consideration. But then I also saw, and where did it go? There was also a place to increase the mill. Oh, it was right here. So we had increased the mill levy and decreased the mill levy in the same in the same goal. So it's just different ways to look at, right, how you help folks and incent that kind of activity. Could anybody share with me what the Built for Zero program is, and maybe with your colleagues as well?
That was Councilwoman Olivia Alcala, who looks like jumped
she's
off and
jumping
came
back
back
on.
in.
Yeah, she's jumping back on. Yeah.
Judge, hate to put you on the spot, but I know you were looking at the website. You want to share a little bit?
I was just glancing at it for the first time. It's an initiative. I think 90 cities and counties have done it, where they create a team of people. And I believe what she was saying is they essentially identify every homeless person in a neighborhood and then work as a team with that person and make sure they get shelter and whatever else they need. Hopefully that was okay, council member. That was on the spot, Adam. Thanks a lot.
It was, thank you. And what we're looking at, what Adam had talked about, is that there are similar demographics of cities that have had success that are similar demographics to Topeka. And so we really need to seriously give this a look. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So again, kind of more really having like a two-way conversation, right? It's not just about the city telling the community what's going on and what programs are available, but actually going out and listening as well, and getting that feedback. And maybe something like what we're doing these few weeks is a start at that. And then really continuing in that education piece, right? Making sure that people, all segments of the community are aware of the homeless issue, what's being done, what can be done, what things to consider. Anything stick out for folks in that particular goal that you want to focus on? The energy in the proverbial room is like everybody's like, I need dinner. Okay. Let's go ahead and now go to the third goal, which is implement innovative public safety programs. And so, and I apologize, I haven't had a chance to really look at this, but really continuing those community policing programs, but focusing, again, on youth outreach, DEI issues, and really kind of the walk and talk. So getting out in the community. A lot of information again on educating the community, whether it's on code compliance, what burning is acceptable, what kind of programs we already offer in terms of like smoke alarm installations. Crime prevention through environmental design, that came up in a previous conversation. Somebody want to explain that? And Jessica, was that you? And I recall now, Jessica, you go by JP sometimes, right? See, it just takes me a while, but I remember now. Was that something that you had mentioned before?
The implement crime prevention?
With environmental design, or somebody else was it? Was it Hannah maybe? No. Okay.
Either Hannah or I probably did.
Okay, all right, because I recall that. Yeah.
Hannah, you're welcome if you want to jump on, say anything. So SEPTED, or crime prevention through environmental design, has been used in many communities as a way of doing just basic neighborhood cleanup, simple things such as painting boarded up windows to look like actual windows, or that they have curtains, has been shown to reduce crime within a community and improve other neighbors' outlook on their own properties. SEPTED is a way to build partnerships with organizations like Habitat for Humanity and things like that to do these projects that are crime prevention strategies.
Okay, thank you. Here was so it was up above as well, but develop the Citizens Review Board, promote gun safety education programs. I would imagine like Be Smart through something like Moms Demand Action provides. Council member, yes.
I'm sorry, just to add something really quick to what that SEPTED that Danielle was talking about.
Yes.
And this is a wonderful first start because, again, changing our culture, folks, look it up. Eventually, what we want to do is we want to have in all vacant houses some type of ordinance that says there has to be working doors and windows. Imagine that. Imagine that in our community. But this can be that this first initial step that Danielle is talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Earl.
Yes, I just want to mention on gun safety that the NRA has an Eddie Eagle program. I do not support the Moms Demand Action. They are not a pro-gun group. And so if you want to talk about gun safety, there's other programs. I know of no other program other than the NRA programs that really teach gun safety without an agenda, how to be safe with a firearm. That's why I recommended that the police offer concealed carry classes to people in neighborhoods, because they teach them firearm safety and training and things like that. So Moms Demand Action, they're not a gun safety group. They're a political action group.
So I apologize for raising a specific program that I'm familiar with and that has been implemented. So, and certainly I think that if we can probably all agree that we need to it's gun safety, right? So what's the appropriate program? And so I would leave that to the community to decide on its own. So thank you for that, Earl. Let's see, what else do we have? Also, let's see, where did that go? Oh, I guess I was looking ahead. But again, here, I'm sorry, I'm looking ahead because here we have a lot of different, like bring back the bike control and diverse deployment of police officers. That's what I was looking for, ideas above. And so there were several ideas of how you could deploy police officers. And then having connections to shelters. So then lastly, provide necessary resources to public safety departments. And so this includes everything from fire station locations to being fully staffed to having quality candidates for code compliance, increasing the mill levy, providing competitive wage packages. Yes, I think that kind of, again, and decrease the mill levy to homeowners as well. So we had increase and decrease also in this particular one. So anybody want to comment on that?
Yes, I do want to say a shout out to homeowners. It's unfair what we we take from our homeowners. We want to increase, and we've had a nice discussion in our breakout groups. It's unfair what we ask from the homeowners. There's like 9 entities that take out money from our homeowners. Our homeowners are tapped. We need to strengthen homeownership. By raising money is not going to strengthen anybody's homeownership or help things in the community. So I just want to mention that increasing the mill levy will only hurt homeownership. And I just want to be an advocate for homeownership at all levels, everywhere. And if you make homeownership too expensive, then we've got bigger problems. So that's it.
So
you're just Earl was in my group. Earl, you're just a little rebel. We're talking input. And Earl's just there, just giving it. So,
well, I agree with a lot of what you say. So
I agree too. And this is input. This is input only. So I understand what your passion is. So.
Okay.
So I do think we have to understand, right? Yes, that there is a property tax bill that is far more than just the city, right? And I think
correct.
If Adam excuse me, if I could just finish, Earl. So I'm just kind of saying this for the general, the good of the entire room here. But I think, as Adam pointed out in his presentation, there's just a portion of that dollar, every dollar that goes to the city, and so it's really about how do we make sure that how does the governing body make sure that they're allocating those limited resources according to what the public would like to see it allocated. And so those are not easy discussions at all. Chief Willis?
And I appreciate that, Patty. And I just want to point out a fact that may be construed to be on the other side, but we also live in a community that hasn't raised the mill levy in 8 to 10 years. So I think that we have to be aware of that as well.
Well, Chief, I just want to mention that we have raised taxes every single year, their property values, which causes a tax increase. So that's not totally true. The property values have gone up on most homes, which causes their taxes to go up every single year. So we have raised taxes every single year. So
blame the county. That's all. Come on, guys.
So
again, it is. I mean, you're both accurate. The mill levy has not increased. I mean, both can be accurate. The mill levy has not increased. Revenue has. But again, it's about how what kind of investment needs to be made into the community so that it is what you want for it to be. And I think that's where these discussions are. So any other comments related to the discussion tonight? Because what the next step is that staff and I and Bree will be looking at these and seeing how we can condense and package them in what looks very familiar to you. You're gonna be like, yes, that's exactly what we said. It just is maybe a little bit different verbiage. We'll be sending that out tomorrow for you to select your priorities. There will be 4 different links. And please pay attention to how many selections you can make within each. So 4 links because you had 4 goals. So please pay attention to how you what you do. You can change your priorities within each of those links. Steve, what have I missed?
I think our gratitude and our thanks.
Yeah.
There's an incredible amount of information here. A lot of great ideas. It's going to take us some time to get through it. So very much appreciated your time tonight. You gave us about 3.5 hours of your time, and very grateful for that.
Okay, so please mark your calendars for March 10th, 4 o'clock. We anticipate it'll still be via Zoom. If that changes, we'll let you know. It will be a combination of informing, so learning what your colleagues did in the other work groups, as well as asking you for some additional input as the council goes forward. So thank you so much for your time. And Rock Chalk Jayhawk, Judge, where did he go? Is he there? Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.